What's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. Hey, I want to share a simple testimony that is not news to any of y'all probably, but is honestly so significant in terms of just the Lord shaping me, molding me, and the family that He put me in, and I'll kind of lump two things together in one, and that is one, that I know my biological father, and he's active, involved, present figure in my life growing up, and still, but particularly in childhood in terms of it being so impactful for my development. The other is that my daddy-o, my biological father, is married to my biological mother. And I'll even lump in a third treat, which is that it's their first marriage. Those three realities, I will never, ever be able to come close to quantifying the impact on a human being those things can have and do have. And so I just want to share just the reality of that blessing in my life. And again, I'm not a psychologist, okay? So any of y'all psychologists out there, feel free to hit me up, but with some of the impacts. But yeah, I mean, it becomes more and more noticeable or important, the impact of having my dad in my life, the more and more that like fatherless homes becomes normal. Or maybe not quite normal, but at least common, which are probably synonyms. Just the stabilizing effect of that, the grounding effect of that. As a boy, you naturally, whether you want to or not, you look up to your dad, and you want to make him proud. You want to be like him, at least in some ways, right? You want to perform for him, like you just want a relationship with him. You also get just a strong current of identity, like just a sense of belonging, a sense of who you are that comes from this just generational line, and especially your father's presence. That you just, again, you can't quantify it. It's crazy. Like, I remember thinking to myself, just in my own head, randomly, this is a couple years ago, but I was thinking, I don't remember who it was, but it was someone that was like wildly successful and wealthy and attractive and just all the things, that a man could do to demonstrate that he's a conqueror in this life, And I was just thinking to myself in the car, I'm like, man, you know what I have that he'll never have? A dad. And I was just thinking to myself, and I wasn't saying that to shame him at all. It wasn't his fault that he didn't have his dad in his life, of course. So it's so not a shame thing if you lack this, but it's such a testimony if you have this, because literally I was thinking to myself, I wouldn't trade that for 1 second. Like, I would not do that trade where I get everything you have and I lose my dad. Like, as if, not just lose him now, but like lose him like I never had him as a present figure, never really knew him. Because the value of that is, it's just beyond these external merits. It's this state of heart, this state of being. It's this sense of peace and calm, foundation, stability, just existence, just contextualizing even who you are and the way you process things, that is just so tight, and just even aligning your life in healthy behaviors and what's right and what's wrong, and those types of things. Just so significant to have my dad. And it just becomes a multiplying effect that he's to have my mom, and that they're married, like to see the faithfulness, the consistency, the love. Not that they were like doting on each other growing up by any means, but the faithfulness was strong and still is, you know. And generationally, ain't too many people doting on each other. You know, it's kind of a newer phenomenon, the PDA that could be happening in relationships these days. I mean, oh my goodness. But, and then also for them to still be married, again, like my worldview, like the environment by which I was nurtured still exists. You know, like there was no shattering event of divorce that crumbled the foundation that my life was built upon. You know, and it is reality altering for parents to divorce. You know, it's like, what's even real? But I thought y'all loved each other. You know, like it just leads you to question everything. It creates such a sadness, and of course could also be guilt and depression and anger and all sorts of emotions associated with this pain. But even more painful than the healing emotionally that's required is the clarity from the confusion that's caused. You know, it's so reality altering, and I didn't have to experience that. And it's not just something that, oh, God protected me, I didn't have to experience that. But on the proactive side, like I got to be raised in the environment I was raised in, you know? And how many ways has the culture of my parents' marriage shaped me? Like I couldn't count. It's impossible. And lastly, just the fact that they're married to each other and it's their first marriage, it's like a sureness of the future. Like I don't know, like I don't know that many people with with parents they grew up with that it was their second or third marriage. I have friends whose parents have been divorced or married again, but a lot of times that happens in older age. And so I don't know, but logistically, like I didn't have to deal with multiple different in-laws and step family members, and Christmases and whatever weren't nightmares, and confusion on who's my brother and who's not, who's my mom. Like, you know, I didn't have to have this duplicity of relationships, you know, where like probably it's more normal for the human heart to attach to one female as mom, which is what most people end up doing, you know, even in divorce scenarios. But I'm just saying that, like, if someone tells you this is what I'm about and then walks it out consistently for the rest of their life, that's pretty convincing. If someone says this was what I'm about, but also 10 years ago they said that about something else, it just puts that little piece of doubt of like, well, I'm glad that's what you're about right now. We'll see if it lasts, you know? And it's not to put shame on their decision or whatever, but I'm just saying, as a little kid, like as adults, we can rationalize so much of this stuff. We can understand like, oh, I'm happy actually that divorce happened because they're in so much better places now. You know, I'm not trying to come against that stuff in this video. I'm just saying the level of sureness that I had about my upbringing. It wasn't just a healthy upbringing. It wasn't just stabilizing. It wasn't just unifying, but it was like that there was roots to it, a depth to it, that there wasn't this there was not any back of the head thoughts in my mind growing up on like, is this all fake, or is this gonna last, or but what about so and so? And there also was not any relational confusion related to who cares about me and why, as it relates to those inner circle family relationships, because we had one immediate family and that's it, right? And the clarity there, significant. And I mean, just zooming out even further, like my ability to adopt a Christian worldview, into my adulthood, for that to become the way I perceive life, I mean, it's incalculable to describe my parents' role model and the influence that had on my seeing who God is and agreeing with what the Bible says, Whereas if I have a normal that's so different from what the Bible says, because I've experienced, I've got an alien for a dad and a crocodile for a mom, and it's their 17th marriage each. And one of them is actually not a crocodile. It's a crocodile that thinks it's a monkey. Like, again, stupid example, but if that was normal for me, it would be harder for me to read this book and be like, oh yeah, marriage, a man and a woman, makes sense. Yep, don't divorce. Like, it's intended to be a lifelong commitment. Okay, yeah.